Greetings, everybody. What's up? Jumping right in. Greetings. It is once again my pleasure to be able to have you make my acquaintance. I'm Chief Fear None Everlasting Arawak. I'm the president and founder of both the Universal Intelligence Institute and Agency. I greet you in the spirit of love, peace, sincerity, humility, honor, patience, cooperation, forgiveness, and progress, all wrapped up into one. In other words, I greet you in the spirit of resolution. This is part 2 of a continuing educational series that highlights the challenges faced by a world population of billions of people that live under an oppressive form of rule called tyranny, and outlines the many reasons that it continues to exist. I'm here to talk about reversing the effects of tyranny in hopes to help free us, the good people of the world, from the power that the Matrix has over our collective minds. What is the Matrix? Well, most of you already know, but for the purpose of what I'm doing right here, I'll attempt to define it for you. By the way, the date is Friday the 22nd of April 2022. The time is now 9:25 p.m. So just to give you a little account of the time period we're working with now. If you haven't noticed right now, you might hear a bunch of crickets, maybe, and occasional coqui frog here and there. That's because, and you might even hear a generator in the background. That's because I'm out in the bush, I'm off grid, and I provide my own electricity, and I'm in my shanty, and just me and my dogs and my cat. Just to give you a little context of what's going on right now. So, the Matrix is a vast metaphysical, technocratic, one might call otherworldly universe that directly influences and controls the human mind according to the manipulation of vantage points created for the minds to consume and therefore to operate on, which is programming. Vantage points, by the way, are the way you look at things. Your behavior is heavily influenced by what you've been exposed to in your environment. So if I asked a question that required an answer from the point of view of an 18-year-old black male from the Bronx, and if that person answered, clearly, in most cases, the answer that I received from that individual would clearly be expected to differ in sharp contrast from the answer given to me by a 55-year-old white woman from Utah, would it not? The answers that they both provide to any query that's asked would be considered examples of vantage points. To simplify, we are all looking at things from different vantage points. Yet we are all socialized into thinking alike on all major issues. If this sounds confusing, it is because it is meant to be. It's a social construct. As a social engineer, if you were one, how difficult would it be to manipulate the minds of the people that make up the remainder of these two demographics to always be against one another? Has that ever happened in any case throughout history? And could anyone ever seriously be expected to answer that last question? The success of the plans of these people who run our world is successfully dependent on people of all social positions and groups to be kept divided and ignorant. They know that if all groups ever discover the truth about what has been done to us, and we unite with the intentions of bringing a better world into existence, it would not be in their best interest. So they plan and they plan and they plan. Planning and keeping their plans a secret while trying to implement them while hoping that their plans are not discovered or revealed is really the best thing that these powers that shouldn't be, that actually are, have going for them. They know better than we do that their days are numbered. As a quick side note, universal law is working in the best interest of the people now, the majority of the people. The the balance has been tipped. The powers that shouldn't be know what's going on. They have advanced computer models and advanced technologies like Project Looking Glass, look it up, where they could peer into the future. The reason that they would want to do that is to find out how to alter the course of future events to ensure a predictable, favorable outcome for themselves, where they and their bloodline would continue to rule over us, the common individual, humankind. Now, from the intel that I've received about this, these models predicted their demise in almost every instance. My conclusion, my personal conclusion, is that humanity wins in the end. But at what price? This thing could have played itself out rather nicely if the Matrix wasn't so well designed. But the Matrix is very well designed, and its developers are not going to give up without a fight. They know that their days ruling over us are numbered, so they are throwing everything at us that they possibly could to extend their lives and their rules over us. It's kind of like the example of finding out that someone has stolen something really valuable from you, like a house or a car. That person that you now know, that person now knows that you are coming to reclaim what is yours. But little do you know that while on the way to confront that person has knowingly resolved that they do not intend to return what is yours to you. And if they're forced to return it to you, you're going to get it in such raggedy condition that it won't even be worth it to you anymore. You won't even want it. So you understand where I'm going with this? Just a quick side note that I just pointed out. Now back to our regularly scheduled broadcast. Always wanted to say that. Slavery is achieved by way of the programming process, or in other words, education. Did you know that the education department in America is the second largest bureaucracy that exists, second only to the Department of Defense? Yep, it's true. So much money is spent on educating the public, and realistically, this is what we get. You ever see what these schools is producing? No one has to chain, beat you, or commit any type of horrors against anyone anymore. Not saying that they don't. They do that for extra effect, but that's not what's actually enslaving you. Your mind is so fucked up that you don't even know the difference anymore, do you? Slavery has evolved, and it's not just for so-called colored folks anymore. Never really was, actually. It was just made to seem that way, because every demographic of every racial distinction that we know of at one point or another has enslaved the other, and vice versa. Everybody has basically enslaved everybody. In fact, black people do so much complaining about slavery when we're the ones that invented it, or where do you think the word slave came from? From the Slavic people, where the Slavic people were enslaved, and guess who enslaved them at first? Black people, so come on. Anyway, it was just made to seem that way. So look deeper. Societal planners are masters of manipulating appearances and pitting people against one another. Yes, white supremacy is actually a thing in terms of philosophy and how this world has been run for the last millennium and how it's impacted the world's inhabitants. It was always with full intentions of bringing all of humanity under its central control. For, for the people that are suffering from its effects, like the melanated people of the world, the darker skinned melanated people, black people, that's all we're going to be able to see because we too close up and we'll never be able to see the picture from that big picture from that angle alone. Look again, but back up this time. Try to take the whole thing in. The philosophy of white supremacy or any other type of supremacy is division and a means to an end. Keep that in mind. Don't be fooled. You know, they leading you down a path that I don't really think you want to go because you want to deal with the real problem, not the diversion that they put up in your face. White people and have been used to bring our world condition into what it is in this era and are being blamed for everything, while the truth is that this is not entirely the case, that they should be blamed for everything. The social engineers never really cared about them either. It serves someone's purpose somewhere really, really well that they, so-called white people, would take the blame in the end and everyone would gobble it up and everyone would focus on their descendants of today and blame them for everything, while the truth is that every known demographic from every so-called race on this earth contributed to the earth's current condition, either actively or by default. So stop playing. It's time for accountability, finally. Yes, I'm talking to you, black man or woman, just as much as I'm talking to everyone else. You knew, so-called black man or woman, forgive me, because you're not actually black. None of us are, even the darkest of us. We're varying shades of brown on the spectrum, and even other pigmentations thereof. But to say that we're black, that's a distinction that I don't want any part of, So the so-called black man and woman, I'm talking to you just as much as everyone else. You knew about these secret societies that your family members are in. You always knew that something wasn't quite right about them, but for whatever reason, I don't know if it was fair or because somehow you benefited from the association or you had no idea what it was about and you didn't want to know, whatever. In your heart, you must have known that these members of our families are associated with and have made ungodly, unholy alliances with men and women that gather for nefarious purposes, or else there would be no need. There would have never been any need for such extreme secrecy and blood oaths that threaten the most severe punishments for the revelation of secrets from among the brotherhood or sisterhood. Does that sound godly to you? No, that's not at all. So it's got to be nefarious. The concept of white supremacy and its pervasive manifestation on earth is a means to an end, as I said before, and it serves someone's purposes really well. These archons in these secret societies, in many of the world's secret societies, members of our families, mind you, are the protectors of all of the secrets of all the evil ones. So if you want answers, the people who could give you answers are right in your faces, but they sworn to secrecy. The question then is who? Excuse me. Who is behind white supremacy? And why have they chosen to use the Caucasian peoples in such a way to, in the long term, wreak havoc among the earth? How did they do it? And did they have help? These are some of the questions that I'll definitely answer eventually down the line. But I don't think my audience is ready for that yet. I got to ease you into this. Now remember that I'm speaking to every different type of person out there, not just my people. It is not my intention to offend anyone any more than I have to. And believe me, I'm going to do a lot of offending. I only want to unapologetically represent the truth according to my understanding. I realize that this might trouble some of you, so you might want to stop listening now if you're not emotionally mature enough to handle what I'm saying, because I'm not going to stop. The truth is an offense, so while it is not my intention to offend anyone, if I could avoid it, it is my discovery that in this instance, I cannot tell the truth and avoid offending some of you at the same time. Big problem. What are you going to do? Because I'm not going to stop. You're going to stop listening, or, what you going to do? Because I'm not going to stop. So that's your warning right there. That's your cue. Now, I'm sure you could think of a few things to do, couldn't you? I'm exposing who got to be exposed. And it doesn't end there. Lawyers, doctors, big pharma, bankers, etc. What do you guys in these professional guilds know that the rest of us don't? Oh, you don't want me to talk about that either, huh? Okay, shh. Now, although my appearance and the way I present myself is very melanocentric, meaning centered around the advancement of the darker skinned original people of the world, so-called blacks, I am a lover of all people throughout the world, with a particular affinity for my own. And if it came down to a choice between us and anyone else, I choose us, just to keep it a buck. I mean, you guys like honesty, right? Okay then, I couldn't be more forthcoming than that, could I? I don't think so. So, there are going to be times that I sound like an apologist for the white race, like right now. Probably already did. But really, I'm not. I know if you're one of those people who feel that way about me, you expected me to say that. Fair enough. But in my defense, let me inform you that I'm here to help resolve the problems that we, humanity as a whole, as a species, have. So please know that I know nothing is ever going to be resolved by pointing fingers at one another and name calling and all that other type of shit. We should only point fingers when we know for sure that someone is specifically responsible for something in relating truth objectively. This is the ideal. Stick to the facts. Leave ego out of the equation. There's no room for ego in the equation for those who truly desire progress in any and all endeavors, especially this one. So learn to subdue your ego for the sake of the achievement of whatever goal you're trying to achieve, like this one. Ego, like anger and other destructive attributes, will cause one to fall short of whatever goals that they set to achieve for themselves. Ego will cloud an individual's judgment and cause that person to act irrationally. I am beyond that. At least I'd like to think I am. At times, I'm not. I know that for sure. I have emotionally matured, and I suggest that you do the same if you really want to help. Because what you're doing, labeling people like me as coons or apologists for the white race or whatever, you're not helping. Now, humanity is in a crisis, and the only thing that is going to really help us if is to use what we have, our brains, because we have to think our way through this crisis that affects us all and will certainly affect all future generations if no plan is ever put together and hatched to counter the effects of what has been done. No, I'm not an apologist for the white race or any other one for that matter. I'm only presenting things in this manner because if our intentions are to truly root out the problems that continue to lead to humanity's destruction, why only identify only part of the problem when everyone participated either tacitly or actively? Here, I got another one for you. As Jay-Z asked in one of his recordings, quote, "Why kill the puppet and leave Geppetto alive? Why not wait to get them all together? That way you dig one big hole one time," end quote. Now, do not believe that because you and I are the same color that I automatically share your prejudices against others. I'm a lover of truth, and I want all of humanity to win. All of humanity. So if I got to swallow a little bit of my pride and maybe admit that I'm wrong from time to time after finding out the truth of what really got us here to this point, the real truth, no matter where it takes me and who I got to expose in the process, I'm going to do it. I'm a resolutionary, not a revolutionary, so don't get it twisted. I'm here to help solve problems, not make them bigger. My approach is unconventional and highly controversial. Yes, I'm going to say a lot of shit that a lot of you are not going to like. People from all backgrounds are not going to like it because I'm not going to leave anybody out. You know why? Because it's true. It has become clear to me that on some level, a great majority of you out there do not want to know the truth because you are comfortable in this illusion that the Matrix has created for you. Finally knowing the truth forces you to become accountable. And for some of you, that is a fate worse than death. Coming face to face with the fact that you wasn't ever shit, and you ain't shit now, and you probably ain't never gonna be shit unless you change your ways, that's hard. Reality hit for a lot of you that you are so far gone in your ways that you could never change. Sad, but at least you realize it. Now what's really sad about your type of people is that the rest of us that want better for ourselves gotta watch out for ourselves against you too. You guys hate to see us ascend while you decide to continue to remain the scum of the earth and live in your squalor. You don't want to see us grow. You're all a bunch of haters. As Scarface would say, you're all a bunch of fucking assholes. Why? Because you made your choices to be who you are. When many of us showed love, what did you do? You told us to mind our own businesses, right? Well, many of us turned our backs on you because really, to tell you the truth, y'all are too heavy of a burden and you're not helping, and we can't carry you anymore. We realize that if we continue to carry people like you, we're going down with you. We're not going to make it either. We know that we can't let that happen. At least the smart ones do. We've realized that we got to let you go, man. And when that happens, we know that we've created new enemies for ourselves, that you now become our enemies, like zombies, you know? What do you do, or what do we do? But here's the thing. What do we do when we see zombies in a horror flick? You know, I don't have to go there. The real people out there are feeling my shit. I know this because they tell me all the time. I get support from people of all walks of life. You know why? Because I'm genuine and they could feel it. They know that in their hearts and in their minds because of their dealings with me. Even those who don't like me for whatever reason, they might have been trying to get over or whatever, and I put them in their place, they respect me. Even they have a high standard of behavior from me. Well, they expect a high standard of behavior from me. I hold a high standard of expectation of myself that so far I haven't been able to live up to, but I try daily. And each day I feel like I'm getting closer to achieving that goal. And the closer I get, the more the game changes and the further the goalpost moves away. That's okay though. In the meantime, something else is happening. I'm growing. And that growth motivates me to experience more growth. And the cycle continues. This isn't supposed to be about me, though. I have more to talk about me, but I definitely don't want to try your patience, so let me move on. The subject of this correspondence is reverse engineering tyranny, part 2, solutions. I guess the first thing I should say about this is that I hope you didn't tune in today thinking that I would have some simple blueprint that I just prepared and any Jenny come lately could just look at it like a brand new toy that they just got out the box, put the battery in, and off you go. A brand new, better world. And we all live happily ever after. It don't work like that. Let me remind you that Rome was not built in a day, and the amount of evil that we now know is manifest in the world has taken time to become what it is. So, it should therefore stand to reason that despite our best hopes and intentions, it is not likely that humanity will experience the types of positive changes that I'm suggesting here today anytime soon. Knowing is only half of the battle. And with that said, it is fair to also say that the real battle has not even begun because many of the would-be fighters are not even aware that they are in a fight or that a war has been waged against them in the first place. Let's start there. This is why it's important to reverse engineer tyranny. One of the tyrant's biggest tricks is to convince others that he does not exist. So, if there's apparently no central figure to focus on, then who do you fight? A system? Well, that's exactly what we got to fight. A system or systems that are in place by reverse engineering them. Another thing is to keep the slave unaware of his or her state of being. In the case of those who are aware, it doesn't take much to inspire the slave to love and embrace his or her own slavery. So that's where we are, my friends. We are at a point where the Matrix has shaped our perception so much that we've learned to love and embrace our own slavery. Stockholm Syndrome on a global scale. Stockholm Syndrome is a psychological condition in which people who are held hostage or taken into captivity begin to show irrational signs of feeling empathy for their captors and will therefore act on behalf of the interest of their captors, believing in the inherent good of those who have stolen their liberty, put their lives at risk, and have broken their will due to close bonds that may have been shared with the captor during the time of captivity of the individual or group or groups, leading to the captive no longer perceiving the aggressor to be a threat and the development of a shared value system between captor and captives. Now, who does that sound like? If that don't sound like black people in America, boy, then who does it sound like? But look it up, Stockholm Syndrome. This is real. Now, if my diagnosis of what humanity is generally suffering from, which is global Stockholm Syndrome, if that's correct, this means that all of humanity, for the most part, has been psychologically swindled into becoming agents of our own destruction. This conditioning was not very effective against me at all. I mean, for a while, I gotta admit, it had me too. Now, I'm one of those people who is completely free of the alpha state conditioning found in humankind, induced by the television and movie flicker rate, and by the computer, and by other forms of conditioning like education, culture, and emotional trauma. And out of that group, I'm part of an even smaller minority, the one that actually has the balls to stand up to and against any form of tyranny that we are fundamentally opposed to. As that guy, or one of them, it is incumbent upon me and other people like me to wake people up from our collective psychological stupor. Therefore, by default, it is my fiduciary duty and obligation as a self-proclaimed steward and protector of the realm to, by whatever means, do so. But how? I have very little resources, no known network to tap into, a whole gang of enemies that I've created by exposing myself, attempting the fulfillment of the requirements of my assignment, and almost always hungry belly, a whole host of bad habits that I am unlearning in real time, children to guide and protect and provide for, no gurus to consult, and in the words of Winnie the Pooh, I am a bear of very little brain. I mean, I'm smart, but I'm not that smart. I need help, because I'm matching wits with some of the people with the highest IQs in the world who had time to just sit down and think and plan, and they had the resources behind them, and they work tirelessly, and they're united and all of that. And my team is fucked up. I don't got none of that. My team is real fucked up. But yeah, but they just happen to have nefarious intentions and plans against all of humanity, not just black people. They just using white supremacy to get there. Now, I once revealed my plan to reverse engineer tyranny to help make the world a better place to someone that I once considered a friend about 20 years ago. She argued that it was impossible and asked exactly how I was going to do it. I had no influence, and I had the challenges that I just mentioned to you about a minute ago. How, she said, with buttons and confidence? I laughed, but I never forgot that phrase, with buttons and confidence. It's funny because that's all I literally had at the time. But what she didn't know is that I had something else, something that she didn't know about because she didn't have it in her life. I had a very powerful trump card in my pocket that I always carried around with me and used during very challenging times. A card so powerful that it may be all that I ever need to accomplish anything that I ever need or needed when I faced obstacles in life. I had faith in the power, will, and performance of the Most High and His wife with regard to all matters pertaining to my life and well-being. It is their calling that I'm compelled to act upon, so I'm doing their work. I have knowledge that allows me to understand that as long as I continue to allow them to order my footsteps and I follow obediently, I cannot be harmed. And I have knowledge that as long as I stay in my lane and play my part to perfection, I don't need to worry about where the help will come from or how it will come. It will come. This I know for sure. Now, how do I know that? Well, this part right here, I'm going to seem a little cocky and arrogant. And some of y'all going to be like, oh, here we go again. Another nigga that say he's Jesus. He's trying to say he's Jesus in the flesh and, whatever. I ain't trying to say none of that. I've just awakened to who I am. But I'm about to say some stuff and just check it out. So how do I know that? Because after carefully searching for the answers all of these years, I finally know who I am. I was chosen for this, and according to natural law, cause and effect to be more specific, and according to the laws of balance, people like me must exist. In essence, this system is responsible for my personality. They created me. Let me explain. Now, for those of you who've known me for quite some time, you might have noticed something different about me from everyone else you know. To shorten the explanation, I will say that if you step back from the situation and looked at all of history from as generally accurate a standpoint as possible, which we're now able to do in this day and age if we really tried, if we studied, you will notice that we've been enacting one big story that has been carefully manipulated by people who are smarter than us because they possess the knowledge that they kept from the rest of us in the world that would have put us on their on their level. Can we agree on that? Okay. Now, in this story, like every story, everyone plays a part. Somebody, sadly enough, gotta be the crackhead. But that's okay. Why? Because in this story, everybody gets an opportunity to choose who they want to be. And with the exception of uh, like mentally handicapped people, or certain people. There are exceptions, I'm trying to say. But so the crackhead, he chose that for his or herself. Somebody got to be the governor, and somebody's got to be the rebel. Well, in my area, during this date and time in this story that we're telling here, nobody else wanted to be the kind of rebel that I am. I mean, there are plenty of rebels, the ones that are not so good, the deviant ones. Now, there's no shortage there. No, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the progressive ones. The ones who mean to devote everything they've got in terms of energy and time to go against the establishment. The ones that don't just give lip service to rebellion, but live and practice it despite the consequences or potential ones. So there was no one else, and by default, I had to become that guy. Now, by realizing that I'm in a story, it became clear to me that we all are, literally writing the story as we live our lives. The way we live our lives today will determine how the story will eventually continue. Notice I didn't say end. I don't know if it ever ends. I hope not. Because of this way of looking at things, I've consciously chosen to be the manifestation of the positive force to counter all of this, the hero. So I've chosen to be the hero in this story. I mean, anybody else want to be the hero could just step forward and be the hero, but I did it because nobody else wanted to be. And besides, I always wanted to be the hero anyway. So, I'm the only motherfucker crazy enough to really want to try to be the hero. So, anyway, at least at this point. So, there's millions of other heroes, don't get me wrong. So I can only do this now because my consciousness had been unlocked. Now, I know my power. I now know my power as co-creator. You are too. Just trying to let you know. And I got to be careful because the last time a motherfucker came by and told you that you gods, you seen what happened to him, right? But anyway, I ain't worried about that. But you are too. You just might not know it yet because your consciousness has to become unlocked. See, mine is unlocked. I feel joy in my heart, regardless of what goes on. So, just to let you know who I am, I'm infinite light. I'm infinite power. I'm a light being having a physical experience. I'm royalty. I'm son of the infinite source. I'm more than a monkey. I'm more than a man. I am God. Small g. No blasphemy. Now, if the Almighty and his wife are the Almighty, the Almighty, God, right? And I am their offspring, which is a fact. And through my consciousness of them as the source of my power and protection, I decide to manifest their many attributes. I become God in the flesh. See how that works? Simple explanation. So, and I'm sure that these words are angering some of you right now. Y'all niggas is steaming like, what did he say? So, as God, small g, always remember that, I get to say a little bit about how shit goes around here. And as God, I get to tell you bankers, lawyers, elite fraternity and sorority members, and all associated with professional and social guilds that are fucking up my inheritance and that of those I love, which happens to be everybody, people of all over the world, fucking up our inheritance, I get to tell y'all motherfuckers to pack up and get going, or we will get you the fuck going. Now, this war is not going to be one-sided anymore. You will get out, or the people turn gods, small g, always remember that, will get you the fuck out. Now, I used to deliver these word sounds live via Facebook for years, and they never censored me until this pandemic hit. That's when I started turning up the heat. People started listening to me, and Facebook and them other platforms, they realized that I was a problem. So first they shadow banned me, next they started putting me in Facebook jail, next they locked me out of my account, and I started another account that grew pretty quickly, and within the span of about 3 weeks they locked me out of that one too. And I realized that social media is not my friend. So I'm tired of playing these games with them anyway. So I'm pretty much off most of their platforms. I'm still on a few, and I'll let you know what that is in the description. But I'm taking my messages to the street with DVDs, CDs, and jump drives. So if you see me, make sure you get a copy. Now I'll be going to shopping malls, street corners, hoods, public appearances when requested, you name it. It's time to change shit around here and everywhere. Now this is our story. This is our story. And we could make it turn out however we want to, can't we? Remember that. I know that a lot of you have given up hope, but this is no time to give up hope at all. Did you hear what I said earlier? The people who run this world are worried. They know that humanity wins in the end. And no matter what they do, their plans are coming apart at the seams. So much information is coming out on them so quickly that it's just a matter of time before we all come for them. They know this. So let me put it to you like this. Those of you that have watched the many renditions of the Wizard of Oz movie will appreciate this. We've all seen who is behind the curtain. Many of us are pretending not to see, but they see. And for many of us who have seen, we've seen too much. And we can't unsee that shit at all. Trying to make us unsee it? You can't do that. That can't happen. So what we have seen will forever affect our behavior. For many of us, we could never go back. Too many of us can never go back. So what we're witnessing today, if you have enough intelligence to see things as they actually are, is the fact that these people that have been holding humanity back from our inheritances and have been murdering us and profiting from our misery on a planetary scale are now exposed and have painted themselves into a corner that they cannot get out of. Don't feel sorry for them. This is an example of cause and effect working at its highest and most observable level. Ever heard the saying that all it takes for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing? Well, that's true, isn't it? We could see that for ourselves right now, couldn't we? Well, thank the Almighty and His wife for natural law, because we'd be doomed. Because it's also true that when evil is left to itself, it will destroy itself. We could also observe this fact in real time if we are astute. This is not the time to give up hope, because we are living in the most exciting time in human history ever. And, by the way, a lot of you are going to die anyway because of the stupid choices that you've made since the beginning of this worldwide crisis. Oh well, but more on that at another time. But like I was saying, we got them right where we want them. They are desperate. They planned really well, but none of their plans are working. So they switch to the other dozens of other ones that always get exposed too. They're running out of time and they're making mistakes. Humanity needs to capitalize on all of these mistakes before it's too late. That's just one angle. There are many, many more. Now, obviously, I can't give you the full spectrum of solutions to reverse engineering tyranny in one broadcast, because my main thing that I came here to do today is to let you know who you are as being light beings and gods and goddesses and what have you, and let you know your amazing potentials, and let you know that you can't, there's no set method by which you can reverse engineer tyranny. And that's what I'll be doing in following in subsequent editions of this vlog. Letting you know um, many specific things. Because most of what's going on right now has got to do with us. We shouldn't even be studying government right now. That shit is about to collapse. You know what I'm saying? Very shortly, I'm not even going to be able to address you like this via video, because electricity is going to be an issue. If you think you got problems now, you're going to really have problems in the future. So all that I'm communicating, like in the future, my future of doing this kind of stuff is going to be relegated to communicating personally to individuals or, large audiences, because I got a lot of work ahead of me. I'm not going to stop. When everything breaks down, people are finally going to be ready to listen. Right now, they're not ready to listen, so I got to still continue to develop myself and hone my skills so that when the class is ready, the teacher could appear. You feeling me? So I have to break all of this up into volumes, and I have to bring this current production to a close, but you can rest assured that my next productions are forthcoming. If you have an opportunity to share this one on social media, because I'll be posting it on YouTube, please do. Any financial or material support that anyone wants to provide will be greatly appreciated. And to arrange that, you could contact me personally at the following number, area code 340-244-5176. And that's it. This has been another General Fair None presentation. And as always, before I go, I would like to leave you with the following words. Right on to the real, and death to the fakers. I mean all of them. I mean it. Justify your existence or die like the motherfucking punk ass bitch that you know you are. And one more thing. May we all get exactly what the fuck we deserve. Thank you very much for listening. Have a safe and enjoyable day or evening. It's a wrap, and I'm out. 1.